Well, welcome to Why God Why, everybody. Great to have you joining us. My name is John Amayo, and I have next to me Aaron McGinnis.
Yes, that's right. It's
a
me.
friend of mine, as well as I hope of yours very soon. Even if you don't know him yet, I have a feeling you're going to grow to love this man sitting right next to me.
I will see.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it will be. I'm sure they will. You know, here at Why God Why, we want to be answering the questions that you might not feel super comfortable just asking in church. And so in order to do that, in order to provide a place that's safe for you, a place where you feel like, hey, I can ask these people questions, we figure it's good for you to get to know us a little bit. So that's why we're having those conversations. And I get the privilege to talk with Aaron, which I do often anyway. So this isn't like an awkward thing for us. This is kind of a normal, everyday deal. So you guys can get invited into our world. Okay, so this is fun for me. Okay, Aaron, let me start off with one of the questions that we ask each other often, just on a daily basis. Who is this Aaron McGinnis? If you had to summarize who he is, really.
Yeah, just a nice small question to start out. I love it, Jen. Who is Aaron McGinnis? Oh, there's something about having to talk about myself that's way harder than just talking about ideas. But let's dive into it. I'll try to give you guys an overview. I grew up, we'll start back in the day, grew up in a family of 5, mom, dad, wonderful humans, love the Lord, 2 older brothers, and then there's me, the third. We were a family who attended church pretty regularly. Grandpa was a pastor. 2 uncles were pastors, right? My parents were Sunday school teachers, the whole 9 yards. And we were also an athletic family. So if we weren't on the basketball court or soccer field or track or in the baseball diamond or at church or at small group, we were probably... What were we doing? I think I went over. Yeah. We were all those places. Right. And we also lived in the country. So I grew up living in the woods pretty much, bringing my dog out past the creek, skipping stones, trying to see how many foxes I could see. Wow. So it was a whole mix of that was how I grew up.
Well, describe that family. Okay. So this is an interesting family dynamic that you're describing. Mom, dad, 2 older brothers. You're the youngest.
Yes.
How did that all play out for you? Like, is this just like everybody was like, "Wow, Aaron's the greatest"? Like, how did that play out for you?
Yeah, I kind of Aaron's the greatest, but only because my family was the greatest, right? So I like to say I went by Minnie McGinnis until 8th grade. So people knew me as Minnie McGinnis, and I was kind of proud of that because my parents, accomplished athletes, good people. My brothers, very much so as well. So I kind of got lumped into that family unit, which for me was a very proud thing to be. I think also within that was a little bit of a journey for me to find my own and not just fill shoes, but kind of choose my own shoes and walk a different path. So that's been a constant journey for me as well. But yeah,
you're talking about that kid. So what's the difference between Minnie McGinnis and the kid that is skipping stones by himself in the forest?
Oh, that's such a good question. I have answers. So Minnie McGinnis, I often joke with my brothers. My brother started playing guitar, so I started playing guitar. My brother started making videos, so I started making videos. My brothers played basketball, I played basketball. They did track, I did track. I pretty much, they wore clothes, I wore those same clothes, right? So much of my life was viewing them as an example in a lot of good ways, but also probably just emulating and mimicking them, seeing the success that they've had, right? And I think that kid skipping escaping stones in the forest, for me, that's a uniquely Aaron thing. I don't know if I ever saw my brothers doing that. I was known as the one who loved the dog and would take the dog out, until sunset. I'm whittling I have scars on my hand from whittling my own sticks to like cut through the brush with and things like that. But within that, there are a lot of similarities with my family. We're all creative types, we all love music. We all love sports. So there are a lot of really cool overlapping similarities. But yeah, definitely a journey to figure out who I am, not just as, my brother's brother, or, which, when I got to college, that's how people referred to me. Oh, you're this person's brother. I'm like, right. That's right, I am. So trying to break out of that was interesting, and is still continuing.
Yeah. I mean, that's a common thing, right? For a lot of us, experience that comparison between family members, comparison to whether it's parents or siblings or whatever. And it's tough to know, who am I in the middle of all of that? And so when did you lose that term, Mini McGinnis? Like you said, eighth grade? Is that what you said?
So in 8th grade, my dad took the head track coach position at Roberts Wesleyan College, which meant we were going to move from Southern Tier, Falconer, New York, to this area in Rochester. So we moved to Brockport, actually where my dad went to high school. And it's funny, I both escaped it and didn't, because we went to the church that my grandpa was the pastor at, and actually where my dad literally lived. It was the parsonage, the church was. So I both escaped a whole, the connection to the family, but also got brought into another area. But when I entered 8th grade, no one knew who I was. So I started going by my first name, Aaron, which I actually thought was lame at first. I'm like, I don't get to bring with me all the accolades of my family in this moment. But in some ways, I didn't know how to handle it, and I kind of shut down in 8th grade. Not having the family unit to lean back on for people to know about. So, 8th grade was a rough year, and I think and again, I'm still really working through the who is Aaron McGinnis thing, because even I was looking at some old intro letters for college and for this post-grad program I did. And I sent it to my brothers. And I'm like, who does this sound like? And they're like, oh, that sounds like our oldest brother. I literally was trying to emulate him in my, in who I was. It was crazy. So, I mean, we're not too far beyond that. And, and I think that has implications for faith as well. But there you go. We're going super shallow.
Yeah, dude, dive in. That's me. Let's dive in, man. Let's dive in. So I think that you're segueing into something that I was thinking about, which is, so how did that affect your faith journey? Like, obviously, that's what this podcast is about, is people on their own faith journey, and kind of trying to make sense of how does this fit in with the context of my life. So how did that point in your life really impact your journey in faith?
Yeah. So, I mean, my faith journey, even before 8th grade, I mean, really when I started making my own was in college. But before all that, it was very much a communal faith, I would say. We moved as a unit. We went to church. I knew some of the Sunday school answers, and we just were Christians. That was kind of the label that we lived within. I don't think I necessarily really captured that. I do remember 2nd grade praying the prayer in the lunchroom with my buddy. I want to follow Jesus with my life. So that came relatively early on, and I remember that exact moment. But from then on, it was just kind of a swimming in the water type of thing. I never put effort towards my faith. I don't remember ever being because I believe this, I am going to do this instead of this. I just didn't click at all. And actually part of it too was this trying to uphold the family name, kind of innate, as I uncover this stuff now, of wow, okay, the McGinnis family
Yeah.
They're the pastors. They're the ones leading the Sunday school classes. They're the ones whose kids are leading worship or the president of the Christian club. And so I think it kind of ingrained to me early on was like, we better behave in a sense. Like, and I think I kind of started getting a big head about that, especially when I got into 8th grade, realizing that not everyone's a Christian and realizing that the things my family did were different than other families. And I started getting a reputation of being like that Christian kid. And I went to a school there's about 370 in my graduating class, and there weren't many Christians at all. And there was this award that I got, and I remember feeling so excited and proud because they said this person's faith is important to them, and I'm like, it's me, like yes, like fist pumping. Super
but they
humble.
hold on. So what, they just gave out this award? Because faith is important to you award?
No,
or what? What was this award?
What I call it was the I'd let him date my daughter award.
Okay,
all right.
Like,
who's a good kid?
Okay, he's a good kid. Gotcha. I didn't know in what context they were like.
I did the classic Christian. I didn't swear. I was very proud that I didn't use any profanity,
naughty words,
and I didn't drink
and he
alcohol.
Still has never used one to this day.
My wife's like, I've never. It was the other day. She's like, that's the first time I've ever heard you. I'm like, was that really? I don't know if that counted. So like deeply ingrained, like do not do these things. And it wasn't even my parents or anything that like, they didn't like tell that to me. That's just something I must have learned. But I didn't drink. I didn't go to parties, maybe to the detriment. I like really didn't go to parties, lost friends, it wasn't great, but the teachers knew that. And I was like I was a teacher's pet. Of course, I'll say this: senior year prom. I go to prom. My legs are dying because I was in a track meet in Victor. Yeah. I did the pentathlon.
Okay. I thought you were going to say the Macarena because you're at the prom, but no. Yeah. Okay.
Did the pentathlon in Victor, 98-degree day.
Yeah.
Absolutely dead. I go to prom that night. I didn't really want to go. I really had never danced before. Very uncomfortable in that situation. And my legs hurt so much that I could barely stand. So I went and just talked to all the chaperones. Talked to the chaperones, and they're like, wow.
What a good upstanding young man.
Good upstanding young man with high morals.
Who's ignoring his date? Did you have a date?
I feel
to
so
the prom?
bad, Megan. I'm so sorry.
Oh, Megan. I'm sorry too, Megan.
I feel like I need to apologize. I haven't seen her really since. I saw her brother. I'm like, I just need to apologize.
Yeah. So, well, you just did, Megan.
I did.
There you go. Consider it your apology, Megan.
She didn't really want to go with me. Let's be honest.
But the chaperones are glad she did. So
the chaperones, and they
had a lovely evening. Yeah.
As long as the adults thought that I was a really good kid and people thought I was a good kid, that meant I was succeeding as a quote unquote follower of Christ. And so that's kind of, which led to a lot of judgment in my heart towards others who were, oh my gosh, you went to a party, even if there wasn't drinking, you sinner, like the things that Christians are often accused of. I was certainly that, for sure. While also having like nice morals,
Yeah.
So that was interesting because, that's how I kind of grew up with my faith. And it really wasn't until there's actually two things happening, though. There's one thing where I think God was very kind to me in that he kept giving me some small desire to try to know him more. I just can't explain it. But, my brothers were out of the house and I'm like, I think I really want to read my Bible. And I'm like, I really want to go to youth group. And I'm like getting my parents to try to find me a youth group. And it was kind of coming from me. Yeah. It wasn't coming from, it was coming from God. But, and the situations I got in weren't that edifying or helpful for my spiritual walk, but there's at least some, I went to Roberts Wesleyan College. I wanted to go to a Christian college. My parents didn't tell me I needed to. I brought a list of Bible verses my first day. I'm like, I'm going to memorize so many verses when I get to college. And again, I don't have any friends who are Christians that are spurring me on.
Yeah, what made you think, like, I want to memorize a bunch of verses? Like, where did that come from?
Oh, I mean, I'm probably just digging into my repertoire of what good Christians, what people who love God do. But I do think there is probably a true, like, good desire of, like, I want to know more of who he is. And I just didn't know how to do it. I didn't really have people around me that were pushing me there that I remember. But this was always there. And then it wasn't until sophomore year of college, I went to a camp called Summer's Best 2 Weeks. There's a lot of day camps in Rochester, New York. I went to the original, the OG in Lake Gloria, Pennsylvania, which was a Christian sports camp. And my friend brought back a promotional video for this and showed it to our Fellowship of Christian Athletes, saying, she's like, this is a camp I went to. I'm just going to play the video. And she played the video. And I'm like, I start by like leaning back in my seat. And then I like scoot up. I'm like, oh my gosh. And by the end, I'm nearly standing up. I'm like, I need to go. I need to be there. I was like, it's something within me was like, I need to be there. So I interviewed and became a counselor there. So, and it really fit well. It was a Christian sports camp. And what I learned, it started shattering some of my preconceived notions. Like all good Christians go to Christian college. I got there, made many good friends from Penn State, Ohio State, big schools, big quote unquote party schools. And I would wake up at 7 and realize that at 6:30 they had gotten up and started reading their Bibles. I mean, we're talking about exhausting days with 8-year-olds through 15, you know what I mean? And they're getting up early every day to read their Bible. And I'm like, what is this? Like, I had not seen that at all, especially not what I would think from someone who's not going to a Christian college, you know? And then so I see them doing that. I'm like, should I be doing that? I'm like, I don't know. And it wasn't till I was a co-counselor with my friend, Mark Matheson, who went by Bojangles. This is clearly a gift. Of course. Yeah. Bojangles, which was ironically my nickname for baseball in 3rd grade.
Bojangles?
Bojangles.
You have a nickname for a sport?
Yeah.
Wow.
No, not for the sport. Oh. That was my...
Oh, your nickname in the sport.
He's going up to the plate.
There
you go.
Okay, Bojangles for the win.
No idea.
No.
But anyways,
okay, good.
Bojangles, Mark Matheson was like, hey, dude, like, you should totally read your Bible. And he's like, why don't you get up with me tomorrow and we'll read? And I'm like, oh, okay. So I got up, started reading. Then I started reading and I kept reading. And the next day I was reading. And then I was just devouring scripture.
Wow.
Just crazy. And then I got back to school and I'm, you know, I had like, my favorite pens are those multicolored pens because you could underline and circle and write. And then I like blew through that. And then my friend got me a Bible with like journal notes and I just going crazy through that too. So I was kind of engaging with like, oh my gosh, I haven't really been trusting God at all. I've just been living a moral life. That's what it felt like. And I did have good examples from my family of like, oh, that's what it looks like to trust God. But it just didn't click to me until that moment. And then that's where things got really interesting because I started engaging with God more than I ever had. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I should put my trust in him. And I'm like, oh, but this is what it looks like to put my trust in him in these moments. And then, like we all do, I chose not to trust him in many moments. Right. And I found myself deep in sin. It was this weird juxtaposition of like crushing through the Bible, like genuinely wanting to know as much as I could about the Word of God and about God, and also being so aware of where I was falling short and like in sin and going in the depths of sin where I'm like, we're not in a good place here. Yeah. So I was like living this.
So what does it feel like in that moment? Like you're describing something that a lot of people probably even, you know, watching this or listening to this have experienced. What does it feel like to you in that moment?
Oh, it's awful. It feels like, you know, like you're being ripped in half, but really it felt like, what's wrong with me? Because I think because my faith had been built up on moral behavior for so long not being able to produce moral behavior in an area was like get it together, man. Like, what are you doing? Like, this is, you got to stop, or you got to be able to switch or whatever. And so I was really hard on myself. And I assumed that the way to address it was just to work harder and just be better. Just be better, you know? So that certainly was a moment for me. And then post college, I'm going through all these things, you know, had a really bad relationship. You know, I'm still going to camp in the summers and having great summers. And then it's just this huge mixed bag, and I'm trying to figure out who I am and like who I am apart from my brothers who went to this school and everyone still knows, and he's still popping up in the videos. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I ended up, being introduced to a program in Virginia, Charlottesville, Virginia, through a church where, and they really filled out the rest for me of what the Christian life really was. How does it play out in everyday life? What does it look like beyond just reading your Bible? What does it look like beyond just attending church 52 weeks a year and giving yourself a gold star? So that was totally separate from my family, and I was really able to start diving into those questions deeper. And but really what happened was I'm uncovering this now. In those spaces, I tried to still emulate my brothers, and I still tried to be them. And then
because it's what worked for you, probably.
It's probably what worked. Yeah, it is what worked. It's what worked for them. And then people started labeling me exactly like someone would label my brothers, and I was getting annoyed by it. I'm like, why do they think?
Because you felt unseen for who you truly were.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I also didn't know how to be who I truly was. So there you go. Fast forward. Oh, wow. We're still on that.
Yeah.
Fast forward. I meet my wife there, Kelsey. Yeah. If you've met her, you have a good friend because she's amazing. I met her at camp. Yeah. We did not date. I knew her for 2 years, and then she did the same program I did, but a year later in Virginia. Yeah. And then the year after that, we started dating, got engaged, moved back to Rochester.
How long is this, dating to engaged? What are we talking about?
What was it, 8 months, 9 months?
Okay, so pretty quick in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, thank goodness.
You were like, I know.
And
she was like, oh, this is the man for me.
She's wonderful. I was her first boyfriend. I had dated a ton of people before her, and there was always this 3-month marker, and I pretty much knew by 3 months that it wasn't going to work out for everyone else. Right. And for her, I'm like, oh, snap. She's amazing. This is, if anyone's going to screw it up, it's going to be me.
Is it that you finally felt, I'm digging in here with you. So
you are.
Just let me go. I'm just going. Like, is it that you felt like you were finally seen for who you were by somebody, not somebody else?
I think that was a big part of it, for sure. And especially because we share a lot of this, like one of our first dates, we went out into the middle of the woods and strung up hammocks and just listened to music. And I'm like, this is incredible. This is the best date ever, you know? Yeah. And she felt the same way. And and she's a third child. She has 2 older brothers. If you know Kelsey and I, you probably don't know. Her dad was a math teacher. My dad was a math teacher. Her dad coached track. My dad coached track. Her mom's a cardiac nurse. My mom's a cardiac nurse. They're pretty much the exact same age. She has 2 older brothers who all did sports. I had 2 older brothers that all did. So she loves animals. I love it. There's a lot of like those types of similarities that it started getting strange. We're like, you too? And it was like, yeah. And although we're very different people, we keep learning that as we continue in our marriage. There was a lot of we did track workouts together when we started. Just was a lot of the same interests, and she loved the Lord, and she's beautiful, and she's super kind, and she's just wonderful. So it was for me, it was an obvious green light go. Yeah. For her, you'd have to ask her. I don't know.
And fast forward to this time, and now you guys have like a little child of your own.
Yes, we do.
This
Holy
is crazy.
cow, living in the past, you almost forget. Yeah,
I know,
we have a little 16-month-old Addie Mae McGinnis.
Addie could be one of the cutest kids on the planet. Verified by my children when Kelsey and Aaron came over for dinner the other night. My kids were like, who do not speak highly of children in general. They said that could be the cutest kid alive. And so congratulations to you and Kelsey. Way to go.
I
You've done it.
wholeheartedly agree with that. That is so true. So yes, we have a little family of 3 now, and we've been absolutely loving it. And Kelsey is just started doing counseling. She got her master's and license in social work. So she's really passionate about the mental health field and about young people. So supporting her in doing that. Yeah, it's great.
Dude.
She's great. Love the family.
Wow. I mean, I'm just thinking about parts of your story and how it works out that you are in the position that you're in right now, really serving as a mentor for people who are, students. Yeah, that's your role is, overseeing student ministry at Browncroft.
Yep.
And how fortunate I think our church is to have you in that role, serving in that way because of your life experience and because of what you bring to the table. What drives you in student ministry? Like, what makes you most passionate about it?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think, there's so many things and even like life circumstances that make me passionate. I think I felt like I never had anyone to talk to and no peers and no one to ask questions. And not like it wasn't my parents' fault or anything, but that's how I felt. I kind of felt like I was floating around and just had to do it alone, and had to make a lot of mistakes in order to, stumble my way there. I think God is good and He still made me there. But I'm like, man, there are so many kids that God's probably working in their hearts, and I want to provide a safe space for them to ask questions, to explore His Word, to grow in community together, and to have mentors. Thankfully, Browncroft had a lot of good things set up when we got here, and so we continue to make those spaces. And also, like, very personally, I was kind of like in this transition moments where I did see my brothers go through a church system almost, where it was where you couldn't ask those questions. And if you asked the questions, you got shunned. You had to just stuff them down deep until you finally got out of a space where you could ask the questions. And then when you can ask the questions, you get a lot of different answers. And when someone finally starts listening to you about these questions, it makes it hard when you feel like you've seen a bunch of hypocritical Christians and then genuine people who see the world in a different way. So I wanted to really undo that. And my drive is just create a space where wherever you are, if you're atheist or any religion or a Christian who loves Jesus with all your heart and is asking Him for every step of the way where He's leading, I want this to be a space where you can ask the questions, have genuine mentors who love you. And what I always say is when a kid enters or a student enters the building, I want them first and foremost to have someone love them with the love of Jesus, and to be compelled to seek out that love and the giver of that love, the source of it for themselves. So I think I can't thank my small group leaders enough. They are the real ones doing the ministry, in my opinion. They're the ones who know the kids' soccer schedules and are encouraging them before their tests and are saying, you can talk to me whenever. And so to know that there are people who are giving of their time to make that investment, come on now, that's good stuff.
It is, but you're setting the tone for that, and it takes intentionality to set that kind of tone. So I'm grateful that we get to work alongside each other, man. It's beautiful to watch you do that. It's beautiful to see you carry that heart into that space, and for kids to go, hey, there's someone I can trust. There's someone who is willing to answer the questions for me, even if they don't have all the answers. Like for me to be able to ask those questions is beautiful.
Yeah, and I think maybe part of my story too is I think I was asking or desiring those talks and those deep questions way earlier than adults might think. And I was desiring to be taken seriously and to genuinely pursue God way earlier than you would think. So I think that does translate into our ministry, where my hope is that every night, every time the students come to church, they have the opportunity to be taken seriously, to ask real questions, of course, to grow in community, to have fun and whatnot. But a space where they feel known and seen. And I will not compromise if there's I feel like that there's not a space for them to be known or seen, or it feels like they can just walk in and out and high five someone but never be asked how they're doing. So I think that does inform a lot of the ministry, and that's something I'm passionate about.
Well, how about for the people here? Like, obviously that's one context of your ministry, but how about for the people here that are watching? Sorry if I hit the microphone, people that are watching, but how about for people here that are watching you? Like, what are the things that you're passionate about as they kind of ask some of these questions, or kind of peeking in? Maybe a lot of them might not ever show up on a Sunday morning or a Wednesday night or whatever. We hope that you do, but there's probably plenty of people that won't ever show up. But what are you hoping that they will get from you, your heart?
I think one of the reasons I love this podcast, one, because I'm genuinely just a really curious person. I love hearing what's happening in variety of areas of life. And I think I grew up thinking church was just like a church thing, and maybe our faith is just, it affects maybe some moral decisions, but I'm really passionate about how it affects every part of life. So, I mean, if you have someone, last night I had some time to myself. So I went on YouTube and I started looking up the golf ball paradox and watching science videos on momentum and inertia. And like that stuff fascinates me, as well as city planning and cooking and gardening and social work and mental health and technology. I mean, it all just fascinates. I love all that stuff. And so to get to talk to people who are thinking through big questions in those areas, and for the listeners to know that faith impacts way more, like to show that we can be pretty open-minded in terms of things that are happening around us and the good that is seen, even common good. And that we care much more than just if you showed up on Sunday. That went from being like a top indicator to me to I'm much more interested in talking and hearing about you than I am about your attendance.
Yeah. So like, maybe this is a good way to kind of wrap things up as I think about this time. Like like I've said a few times, I appreciate your heart so much. I appreciate the passion that you bring to ministry and even to this space. Like, if you had to talk to somebody right now that's kind of on the borderline, on the fence, I don't know if I can really trust God with my life or not. I don't know what this following Jesus thing, if it's really worth it. Like, and they're keying in on this. They've just watched this whole interview about you and your life. Like, what are you telling them right now?
Oh man, I probably tell them it's okay. It's okay. It must be really difficult. Just, man, being in those spaces and not knowing what you believe, it's hard to be in those spaces. So I just would want them to know I have compassion for you. And I want to genuinely help you navigate the world, and would actually genuinely want to know about you and how you're made and what you're passionate about. And my hope would be that through those passions, through discovering that, you'd see that there's a common thread that might point to something bigger. There you go.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Well, is there anything else you want people to know about you? Aaron McGinnis.
Oh, gosh.
That we didn't cover. I know the Frisbee golf thing. We haven't even touched base on that. We haven't even talked about that.
Guys, yeah.
Come on. I mean, that's a huge part we just left out of the whole thing. I don't, maybe we need to start over again or something.
Well, after competing every single season since I was 5.
Right.
And then stopping after college, I needed some type of competitive outlet. And I didn't feel like I had time for soccer leagues or something like that. So disc golf, everybody.
There it is.
Yep, was just at the World Championships in Vermont, watching it go down.
And who won?
Isaac Robinson, strong Christian.
Wow.
There you go.
I'm a big Isaac Robinson fan, everybody.
Yes, Ezra Robinson won the Rochester Flying Disc Open the week before.
Of course he did.
So
and they are brothers.
Big, Rochester's a big disc golf hub community.
Yeah.
We hosted Worlds in 89 and 99. Great family sport.
Wow.
Free to play as long as you have a disc. Come on.
Wow.
There's 2 great courses within 4 minutes of Browncroft. No brainer.
No brainer. Next time you're at Browncroft, hit Aaron McGinnis up, and he'll take you to the best local course possible. So,
there you go.
I think.
Perfect.
I just made that promise for him. He can't guarantee that, but I just somehow did.
There we go.
So anyway, great hanging with you, man. Thanks
Yep.
so much for spending this time with us, and I'm glad people got to look behind the curtain of your life just a little bit. There's so much more there that I know and appreciate. We've only just scratched the surface, so I feel like we could spend a couple of days doing this, but grateful for you and all the ways you make Browncroft a better place and this podcast a better place.
Thanks, John. Well, appreciate being here.
Yeah, and for all of you watching, hey, go ahead and smash that subscribe button. I don't know if we say that. Do we say that here?
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, we probably don't. That's just because I'm old, everybody. I'm the oldest one here on the podcast. But anyway, hope you have a great day, and we'll see you next time on Why God Why.